Exodus chapter 16, we see some complaining by the Israelites, and throughout the Bible, and definitely in the Pentateuch, we see that a lot happening with the Israelites complaining. But we have to take a step back to get a perfect picture of kind of what's just happened. So we see, this is the book of Exodus. This is their grand exit from Egypt, where, may I remind you, they were slaves. They were slaves, most of them, for most of their lives. Well, we know at least they were slaves all of Moses' lives, and he'd be around 80 at this time. So some of this, their entire lifetime, they were slaves in bondage. And they took their journey after the Lord brought them out through plagues against Egypt to bring them out. And they come up to the Red Sea, where they come against trials. And the Lord parts the Red Sea for them to cross on dry land. And then the Red Sea destroyed Pharaoh's army that was after them. Then after that, they sang and they praised the Lord. And then they went to the place of Mar, where the water was bitter, and the water was turned to sweet by the Lord. And then they rest in Elim, which was a place of palm trees, and the Bible says that there were 12 wells of water. So we look at good and prosperity that's taken place in their life, and then all of a sudden they get hungry, and they seem to forget all the good that happened to them in their lives. Why? Why did they forget all the good things the Lord has already done for them? The Bible tells us it's only been 15 days after their second month? So 15 days and 2 months is the only thing that's passed from them being complete slaves. And they're already complaining? Why? So this morning I'd like to preach on the subject, appreciation lacking. Let us pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Lord Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity I have to preach, Lord. Just calm my nerves, Lord, and just use me, Lord, as your vessel to preach your word. In your holy, precious name, amen. When bad things seem to happen, we seem to always forget about the good. We see that in the Israel's lives. All this good happened. Okay, the Red Sea was rough, but did they ever get attacked by the Pharaoh of paradise? And they continue on their journey, and one bad thing happened, and they forgot all the good that already happened. They went so far into thinking the life that they knew of slavery was better than this. They said that they sat by flesh pots. I don't know many slaves in that era that did a lot of sitting. They were constructing pyramids and building at the time, the empire of Egypt. There wasn't a lot of sitting around by food baskets, eating bread to the full. No, they were slaves. They were forced to do manual labor without pay and relentless days. And some people think that, I work a long-hour shift. Their shift never ended. The time they opened their eyes and the time they shut it, they were still working. Some of them worked them to death. But that was better than a little bit of hunger. Why does this happen in our lives? They just had confidence. The chapter right before, they just had confidence in God, respect for their leader. But all that seemed to go away because one bad thing happens. How does this happen? How does this happen? How does this happen to us in our lives too? We have all this blessing, all this goodness, the nation we live in. We have all this greatness that we have, so much better an economy for all that the problems it has, but compared to any other nation in this world, you can't. You cannot. Yet we complain and we whine and we bicker. We have Facebook channels we call rant and raves. Rats, a bunch of rats are over here. Now, before I begin, I want to preference something. You can be thankful but lack appreciation. And you say, what does that mean? We have to do a definition. Thankfulness means to be pleased and relieved. When something happens to you good, it pleases you and you're relieved by it. You ever had that something happened in your life like, I'm just so glad that happened. You're pleased and you're relieved. You say thank you. You know, you can say thank you and not appreciate something. How? Well, we have to think about appreciation. Appreciation is to recognize the full worth of a thing. You see, the Israelites were thankful for what happened. They were very thankful for what happened. But obviously, by their phrase that we sat by flesh pots and ate bread to the fullest, they didn't really see the full worth of their freedom. I think here in America, we don't see sometimes the full worth of our freedom. We have people of my generation are the worst. Such an entitlement that we have. Such an ideal that everything, belongs to us. Colleges are the worst. I'm so glad I didn't go to a secular college. There's so much whining and complaining and debating. We want things our ways. How come? They ask, why does no one listen to us? We're the new generation. Well, if you don't know what bathroom to use, well, I'm not going to trust you to make a decision on how I should live my life. It's silliness. It's absolute, utter nonsense. Why? Because they don't know how good they have it. Oh, I'm oppressed. We have so many people that are oppressed that all they do for a living is kick a piece of leather, and they make more than most of us will ever see in our entire lives, yet they're oppressed somehow. We're so not appreciated. And so one of us spent 1 year in another country to be appreciated. The talk that we make about our leader, okay, you think that our president is oppressive, go live in North Korea. Talk bad about your leader there. See what happens. Go to Russia. Talk bad about your leader there. See what happens. Let me get a drink of water. I'm told by my dentist I have more saliva in my mouth than they've ever seen. I'm not lying. So my mother says I need to drink water while I preach to wash it down so I don't spit all over you guys or stumble over my words. There's a spiral effect that happens when we lack appreciation. When we don't look at things for the full worth that they have, there's something that happens, and it's an effect that affects our lives that I believe have caused us to be the way we are today. And it's what happened to the Israelites. The first thing that happens that affects our life when we don't have appreciation is it affects the atmosphere of our lives. And by that I mean we develop a mindset. We develop an attitude in our lives that's going to change the whole way we view our life. And that's called entitlement. It's entitlement that we feel we deserve things. When we don't appreciate things, we tend to think things will just naturally happen good to us. Things will just naturally be good. And if it is bad, it can't happen to us. But then also, we don't take responsibility for the bad things that happen. We develop an entitlement mentality that good should just happen to me because I'm me. Think about that. Good should happen to me because I'm me. The children of Israel weren't really realizing or appreciating the full worth of their... No other race or nation has been called the people of God. They don't realize, out of all the races, out of all the nations that God knew would come to be, He chose them to represent Him. Why do you think they had so many laws? Why do you think it was such a high thing? The Lord was so demanding. Why do you think He'd say if you had a rebellious child, you'd stone them to death? A lot of the consequences of the Israelites was a lot of stoning. You know what that means? To hurl rocks at you until you die. Why was it so harsh? Because they were an example of God. How come when Jesus came, He told them to go to the Jews first? Why? They already had the knowledge. They already had the know-how. That's what God chose them for. He chose them to be the first step to bringing salvation, the gospel to the world. But they didn't appreciate it, and they failed miserably. The Jews have their own religion. It's called Judaism, and it's the exact opposite of what Christianity truly is. That's sad. Why? We lacked appreciation. We became entitled by what we believe we deserve to have. So what happens when we're entitled? Well, you can never truly appreciate what you feel you deserve. When you receive your paycheck, do you appreciate it? Well, you worked for it. You blistered your back for that money. You worked for it. You deserve that paycheck. But you know what you didn't deserve? The job. That's why you had to go through a hiring process and they had to choose to hire you. You should appreciate that job. Why? Maybe you didn't deserve it. But when you feel that you deserve everything, you can't appreciate things. Me and Brother Riddle, we spent a lot of time on that bus together. And we had a man, we were driving, he lived off the government, off a disability. Didn't have any disability. And we were talking, because I was working at Chick-fil-A, and I loved the man, don't get me wrong. But I was telling Brother Riddle, I said, man, I'm exhausted. I worked like 5 to 3 yesterday, 5 a.m. to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm tired. He said, I knew that he was working at Dollar General at the time. Said the same thing. Said I worked like 4 to 4. Like, that's awful. You're old. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. But no, we were talking about how hard it was. You know, he said, oh, yeah, I feel you guys. They cut my disability check down a bit. We've been blistering our backsides to work. And that's, you see, an entitlement. Our nation feels so much that everyone else should take care of them. When we were sitting down for me and Jocelyn, we just got off work yesterday. We were sitting down with Justin. We were eating lunch at Chick-fil-A. We had work. Justin, he was there doing school, using the Wi-Fi, I think, for college. And we're sitting down. He was playing video games. So we were sitting down. We were eating lunch, and I heard one of the girl coworkers. I don't know all their names. I just got back. It's my second week, and she said, "Oh, I'm already out of money." Already out of money? What are you paying for? Why? We feel so entitled. We deserve everything, and we run out of everything because we feel entitled. So you can't appreciate what you feel you deserve, but also you feel that only good should happen to you. And when bad happens, you don't know what to do. You always see these commercials, they're so dumb. Someone loses Wi-Fi, they get on their hands and knees in the rain and say, why me? Bad's gonna happen. You know, we actually deserve bad to happen to us. We live some of us, if it was left up to us in our own mind, we live a terrible life. How come in the Bible when we see the Jews, their worst time is when they did what was right in their own eyes? Why? We don't deserve good to happen to us. But when we feel only good should happen to us, bad is unacceptable. How do we get so upset in a drive-thru because we didn't get our food in 2 minutes? When we can go at home and slave away for an hour, and it's okay. I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyways. But yesterday when we were working, we had one of our guys give out some coffee to this lady. And she jerks the coffee out and squeezed the lid popped off, and she got a little bit of coffee on her. He said, oh, are you okay? She said, oh, no, I'm fine. So he fixed the issue or whatever. She said, I'm fine, it's all good. She drives off. Well, then, Abby was the leader. She gets a phone call. The same lady complaining that she got coffee all over her, and Abby had no idea what had happened. She said, well, I'm so sorry. Thank you for letting me know. I will talk to him, with coach, and so this is unacceptable. This shouldn't have happened. I'm so sorry. She hangs up on her. So then our operator gets a phone call from corporate. This lady called and said that she got her coffee spilled all over her and messed up her phone. And when she called the manager laughed at her. What are we doing? Because something little bad happened to us, we're going to blow it out of proportion because that shouldn't happen to us because we're us. But then also, when we're entitled, when bad things happen, and this isn't in my notes, I just thought about this. I mean, the Lord just brought this in my brain. When bad things happen, and we feel entitled, it's not our fault. Oh, it's never our fault that bad things happen. I'm out of money. It's not my fault gas prices went up. Oh, it's not my fault that this happened. Why? Because good should happen to me because I'm me. But like I said, this is a spiral effect. It starts off small. This is the first phase. There's another phase. The second phase is people don't want to do for you when you feel entitled. We read in the Bible where, was it verse 7? And the Lord said, what are we that you murmur against us? You're murmuring, you're complaining against God after everything He's done for you. You're going to complain? Frustration in this area doesn't come because you didn't receive recognition. Though, when you do something good, you deserve recognition. I was teaching in junior church, and I taught the kids this. I said, saying thank you is not an option. Just like we should tithe 10% of what God gives us, when someone else does something nice, should we not thank them? The thank you is the least you can do. And it's a requirement. But that's besides the point. That's extra. But frustration doesn't come when you don't receive recognition. It's when we feel that that was owed to us. It's when you feel that when someone does something to you, it was owed. You don't even think to say thank you. You don't even think to say good job. Oh, I appreciate that. No, you don't say anything because you feel, hey, I deserve that. That's your job to do that. That you should be doing that for me. How often do you say thank you when you get your food from McDonald's? I paid for it, but they made food for you when you could have gone home and cooked for yourself. Drives me nuts. Working in fast food, you realize how many people eat out. You guys don't have kitchens at home? That's what I always say. I love saying that joke. I work with one of our leaders. It's me and her name's Lupe. And we were just making so much food one day. She's like, wow, it's so busy. I'm like, yeah. These people don't have kitchens at home? The new modern homes aren't going to have kitchens because we don't cook anymore. But we're so underappreciated. When was the last time you said thank you? When was the last time you went to Walmart and you didn't go through the self-checkout? I only go through the self-checkout. But you didn't go through the self-checkout and someone rings you up. Did you say thank you to them? This is their job, so. We don't appreciate. We don't see the full worth and this full value of people. That's why people don't want to do. That's why people have such a bad attitude at work because they don't feel appreciated. I had a guy, his name was Zach, and he told me one day at work, I'm quitting. Why? I don't feel appreciated here. He was absolutely right. Absolutely right. Why? It's not just because of the job. It's the whole world. We don't appreciate anything. We don't see the full worth of anything. That's why stuff from China breaks so easily. They just don't see the full worth and actually doing a good job in something. Besides the point. We don't see the full worth. We feel things are owed to you. When something is done to you out of kindness, it is never what you deserve because we don't deserve kindness. Grace is something given that you don't deserve, but you sure do need. But kindness is something that's given that you sure don't deserve and you really don't need. It's given to you out of an act of kindness. They didn't have to do that for you. They did it for you. Yet we feel that we deserve that because we're us. Oh, we love places with good service because they treat us the way, well, okay, I always ask, how do people always go to Chick-fil-A? They have such good service. Why? Because we treat people the way they feel they deserve to be. I'm not knocking the standards of some people, but we feel that we're entitled to be treated so well? What have we done to deserve to be treated so well? We don't appreciate what people do for us. And so when we don't appreciate what people do for you, they're not going to keep doing it. But then finally, the last aspect, the climax of this whole thing is we will never do for others. We never do for others. When it's all about you, you don't do for others because you don't think about others. When do we ever hear or read in the Bible the Israelites thanked Moses? Think about all he did. He was in the wilderness, taking care of sheep, living a peaceful life. Traded all that around to take care of people that were worse than sheep, that whined, moaned, and complained on a daily basis. How many times throughout the Pentateuch do we read of the Israelites complaining, and most of the time over something they did to themselves? How many times do we whine, moan, and complain over something we did to ourselves? Look at our society. I wish someone would fix this. Well, maybe if you'd stop messing it up and do something about it, change starts with you. But if you're not going to be appreciative of what you have, you're never going to change. You're never going to change what he did for them. But they never really appreciated and really saw the full picture of what he just did. He just took them from an entire lives, generations of bondage and slavery, to freedom. Going to give them a nation of their own, a prosperous nation of their own, but they didn't catch the full picture. I will be honest here. I don't like VeggieTales. You're like, what does that have to do with the sermon? Well, mostly because we were watching it, because, when you're growing up, VeggieTales is the only Christian show you should ever watch. That's some of the most heresy you can ever watch in your entire life. You actually watch these shows. But I'm not knocking if you like VeggieTales. You're just a communist. But you're watching this show, and they were singing, they had this one clip about, they're going to the promised land. And one of the verses, they were making fun of Moses' leadership. And I don't think they did that intentionally. I don't think that VeggieTales was making fun of that. I think they were actually showing the attitude of the Israelites. Why? They didn't appreciate what they'd done. If they would have appreciated everything God did for them, how come they're always making idols and following after other gods? If we truly appreciate what God's given to us, how come we're always messing up? How come we're always making mistakes? We're not showing the true value of what God's done for us, so we never do anything about it. Why don't they do? How come when we lack appreciation, we don't do anything for anyone else, is because we don't do anything for others because they don't do anything for me. They stopped doing things for you because you weren't doing anything in the first place. How come I'm never invited over to someone's house? Well, how come you never invite anyone else to your house? How come no one ever takes me out to dinner or does anything for my birthday? How come you don't do anything for anyone else? We only do to receive. And that's my next point. The only time that entitled people ever do anything for anyone else is because they feel they're going to get something back. And when they do that, they're going to do the bare minimum. If I do a little bit for you, you'll do something back for me. That's the whole mindset we have. That's the whole idea. Yeah, and our whole service system, like businesses and stuff like that. We do for others. We're going to sacrifice, and we'll be good service attitude because they're going to buy our product, and we're going to make a lot of money off them. That's our whole thing. We don't appreciate anything. So what happens? We have an entitlement attitude. We're never going to be satisfied because we only should receive good, but then again, that good has to meet our standard. And the good's never going to be good enough for us because we're always going to find something to complain about. And then people stop doing stuff for us. Why? Because we don't care, we don't appreciate what they've done for us because we feel we deserve it. And then we never, ever do anything for everyone else because, we're too focused on what we need. So we see the destructive power of a lack of appreciation. We see the pain that it brings into our lives. How do we prevent it? I think one of the biggest flaws that we have is we like to overcomplicate things. We need 7 steps to success. We need all this whole long list. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to change. No. Change has to begin here. And then it can begin here. And then it can begin everywhere else. So mindset starts here. The attitude starts here. So how do we develop appreciation? We have to change an attitude. What attitude do we need to change? We need to develop a giver's attitude. My papa, his life motto is people come before things. And he taught that to my father. How many of you have been a recipient of something the pastor's done for you? How much has the pastor given to you? Not just to you, but also to the community, the things that he does for others, the things that he's trying to outreach. He's taken on this John Maxwell thing because he wants to be an outreach to others. Why? Because people come before things. He's instilled that to me because I want to have a giver's attitude. How come it's such a fight to do anything nice for the pastor? How come when we do something nice for him, like we bought him that smoker, he was blown away? Why? Because he didn't expect it. When you focus on doing for others, you never ever, it's out of this world that someone will do something for you. When you develop to be a servant to others, that you want to do for others, when they do back to you, you can't help but be appreciative because you never expected it to happen. And what you want to do again? You want to do something for someone else. I love it at work when someone will drive up and they'll say, hey, I want to pay for the person behind me. And they'll drive up, the next person will drive up and they say, you've already been paid for. Well, then I'm going to pay for the person behind me. And it starts a chain reaction until you get to the one lady who just ordered a lemonade and says, oh, well, thank you, and drives off. But it starts a chain reaction. When you start doing for others, they'll want to start doing for others too. Why? Because an attitude of entitlement is a miserable attitude to have. You're never satisfied. We live in such a miserable society. We have everything at our fingertips. Everything that can make anybody happy. Other nations look at America and they're just like, wow, look at all they have. But how come we're so miserable? How come suicide is so high? How come alcohol and drugs are such a high thing out there? We're miserable. Why? Because we only want for us and nothing's ever good enough. Everything in your life, you need to see the full value and worth of. A good illustration of this is, I remind you, I'm 20 years old. I don't have a lot of life experiences. But the ones I do have, I'm going to use frequently until I gain more life experiences. But I'm getting married. For those of you that didn't know, I haven't told 500 times. And I am very thankful for my fiance. The fact that she loves me pleases me. And the fact that she wants to live the rest of her life with me relieves me because no one else is crazy enough to do so. But every day and every moment, my mom's like, hey, did you text Jules today? As I'm texting my fiance, as I'm talking to her on the phone. I want to spend more time with her because I want to value the whole worth of her. Why am I marrying her? Because I want to spend more time with her. I want to develop our relationship deeper because I appreciate her and want to see the full worth of her. Shouldn't our lives in every area be that same way? We want to have so much, but if you just have a little bit and you just appreciate that little bit you have, you don't need a whole lot. But do we really appreciate everything He does for us? The breath He gives you, the life you have, the clothes you wear, AC in the church building, the nice chairs you're sitting on. We're not sitting on wooden benches with no backrest like used to be. We can really take for granted everything we have. Why is our nation falling apart? We don't appreciate everything that's been given to us. Dear gracious Heavenly Lord Father, thank you for this time that I got to spend just preaching your word, Lord. The fact that so much is given to us, Lord. So much is done for us, Lord, that we don't really focus and sit there and think about the full value and worth of the life that we've been given. It's proven that history repeats itself. That what's happened will happen again. Why? Because we simply don't change our mindset, Lord. Help us, Lord, that we change the way we look at things. We look at things the way that you would like us to look at things. Because your ways are not our ways, Lord. And help us to learn those. That we might grow closer to you, Lord, and appreciate all that's been given to us. In your holy and precious name, amen.